To get really fast at 3x3, you don't need ZBLL, pseudo-slotting, zeroing, or any other really complicated techniques. All you need are good fundamentals. Come on, Editor Brody, how many times do I have to tell you not to cut me off like that? Actually, I'm not kidding. You can get really fast with just basic CFOP and solid fundamentals. And if you want proof, the proof is that I've done it. Let me show you. This is a 759 average of 5 with minimal luck and no advanced techniques. Forget the advanced techniques I mentioned in the intro. This average doesn't even use any X crosses, COLL, or advanced F2L. Just normal cross, intuitive F2L, full OLL, and full PLL. I get the feeling that you might not believe me when I say that these solves are simple, but I'm serious. In a minute when I go over these solves in slow motion, I want you to ask yourself, is there anything in these solves that I don't know how to do? And if you're sub 15 or even sub 20, I think the answer will definitely be no. If there are things I do that you don't understand, that's the first thing you need to fix in order to get faster. And guess what? I have a ton of videos that can help you do that. Okay, on the first scramble we have a simple white cross, which lets me easily solve blue and orange while setting up to solve red and green on opposites. The other thing I saw was this green and red pair, which I knew would end up in the back after I finished my cross. The other reason that red and green is a great first pair choice is that it will be solved into the back left slot. By filling up the hardest slot with your first pair, the look ahead and finger tricks for the rest of your pairs will be easier. It just so happens that this cross solution works really well from this angle and sets up that pair into the back left. Another thing I saw in my inspection was that the green and orange pair would end up in the front left after I was done with my cross, so I knew that would be perfect to do as my second pair. As soon as I finished cross and saw the position that green and orange was in, I knew how it would end up after I solved red and green. At this point, it's hard to tell when I'm tracking pieces and when I just know where they'll be, because I know exactly how these moves affect the cube. What I should have done for green and orange is immediately cube rotated and solved the pair like this, but I got a bit lucky here, because not doing that preserved the blue and orange pair that was solved in that slot. By the time I got to this position, I had already spotted the blue and red corner in the front left and the edge in the top layer, and I had probably spotted the blue and orange pair as well. So from here, the path forward is clear for the rest of F2L. Once I solved green and orange, it was easy to set up red and blue. This way of setting up the pair is the most advanced F2L solution I did for this whole average, just to be clear. Inserting red and blue takes out blue and orange, and then I just cube rotate and solve that pair to finish F2L. Judging by the stack mat, that was 4.5 seconds for cross and F2L, using nothing but solutions and techniques that any intermediate solver should know. From there, we have a soon for OLL, which led straight to a GC perm. Bam, 735. So how the heck did I do that? Well, like I said, when you have really solid fundamentals, you can be really fast without needing anything else. Just to be clear, I don't think that advanced techniques are useless. In fact, I use things like COLL, ZBLL, and advanced F2L all the time. But the point I'm trying to make is that those things are extra things you add on top of your solid fundamentals. You can't use them to replace fundamentals. Think of it like building a tower. If your foundation isn't solid, then when you try to put anything big on top of it, the tower is just going to collapse. But if you build a solid foundation, then you can handle putting something bigger on top of it. But the point I'm making in this video is that you can get the tower with a solid foundation to be pretty high, even on its own. Solve 2 starts off very similar to Solve 1. On yellow, it's very easy to solve red relative to green, and then go straight into solving blue and orange on opposites. When I did that in the solve, that put the green and orange corner in the front right slot, just like I had predicted during my inspection. From there, I knew I could do just 4 moves to connect the green and orange pair, giving me an easy first pair into the back left slot. By this point, I had already spotted the blue and red pair. I knew that solving the green and orange pair would make blue and red easy to connect, so I did that immediately after inserting green and orange. Before inserting blue and red, it was already clear that my look ahead was in trouble. There was one easy to see piece from each of the 2 remaining pairs, but the blue and orange corner and the red and green edge were nowhere to be seen. I got a bit lucky here, because the blue and orange corner came into a perfect spot for a quick recovery, but you can still see the slight pause here. I knew that the green and red edge would appear when I inserted blue and orange, so all I had to do was react to which way it was oriented and solve it accordingly. Even with the imperfect look ahead, I was done with F2L in 4.28 seconds. Unfortunately, I did some extra U moves before OLL and I flubbed the execution, but my last layer was still good enough to pull off a 747. That's 2 sub 7.5 solves in a row, using just things that just about any sub 20 solver should know. White cross on solve 3 was only 4 moves, but being the sneaky man I am, I noticed that by adding 1 extra move, you can turn blue and orange into a free pair. By adding the inevitable cube rotation to the middle of my cross solution, I could make the cross even easier to execute while letting it flow really well into solving the blue and orange pair. But before I finished off the cross, I saw this green and red pair being separated by putting the corner into the bottom layer. This sets up one of the cases we had on the first solve as an easy second pair. As I was solving that, I noticed the blue and red corner going into the front right slot and the blue and red edge in the top layer. I knew the corner would stay in the bottom layer, so all I had to do was track the edge. Once green and red was solved, I cube rotated and had some lockups while trying to set up blue and red, and then eventually got there. From here, looking ahead into green and orange was easy. From this position, I could have solved green and orange without cube rotating, but cube rotating for it happens to keep me from getting a dot OLL. I don't remember if this was a conscious decision or not, but it worked out for me. From there, I go into another simple OLL and a GC perm. I ended up getting a 795, but this solve was just as good as the other 2, other than the lockups. Solve 4 definitely had the trickiest cross so far, but it still wasn't too bad to solve orange, then solve blue, and then finish off with red. Unfortunately, I didn't make the best choice when it came to my first pair. I ended up predicting the blue and red pair, but that meant I had to solve it by taking out the corner from the bottom layer and then solving it, even though it turns out there were much better options. But by this point, I spotted the free pair, which luckily wasn't messed up while solving blue and red, so I could go straight into that afterwards. From here, it's easy to spot red and green. If you do red and green first here, it will preserve green and orange, but that isn't worth messing up my flow, so I just solved green and orange and then went straight into green and red. Immediately after cube rotating, I spotted blue and orange, and from there I was set up for an easy finish to my F2L. F2L on this solve was about 0.1 slower than on solve 2, but because I made less mistakes and had fewer lockups during the last layer, I saved enough time over solve 2 to get a 699. Once again, solve 5 has a pretty easy cross. I predicted the blue and orange pair, so I knew that it would be easy to solve into the back left afterwards. While solving blue and orange, I saw the blue and red corner, and somehow I found the edge in the back right in time to transition into it perfectly. And once I connected red and blue, red and green was pretty obvious as well. This wasn't intentional, but cube rotating at the beginning of the red and green pair meant that while solving it, I took this terrible green and orange pair out of its slot and made it into a slightly better case. On the last pair, if I did RU2R' from this angle, I would have gotten full EO, but unless you can spot that really quickly, any time that would save would be cancelled out by taking time to recognize it. That's one of the advantages of simple solves. You can just do things without thinking about it quite as much, and a lot of the time that ends up being faster. It's like how if I got a ZBLL case that's just the normal OLL for that case, I would take the time to recognize the ZBLL and then do the ALG. But someone who doesn't know ZBLL would just do the ALG, get a PLL skip, and it would end up being faster. Unfortunately, the F2L on this solve was straight up longer than the other solves. So even though the last layer was decent, I got an 841 on this solve. Like I said at the beginning, if you're sub 20, you should understand everything that I did there, except for maybe some OLL algs or something like that. But there was nothing complicated I did during F2L here. But if there was anything I did that you don't understand, again, that's what you need to fix first. Even compared to the other fundamentals, efficiency is the most fundamental one of all. If you try to learn how to look ahead without good F2L efficiency, it won't work and you're just going to end up being stuck, confused, and frustrated. Once your efficiency is really solid, you can start working on the other key fundamental, which is look ahead. That's what sets me apart from the sub 15 solvers who understand everything I did but can't solve at my speed. I can consistently look ahead at 7 or 8 TPS and they can't. It can take a long time to build up efficiency and look ahead to the level I have, but clearly using just those two things to their full potential can get you easily and comfortably sub 8. But once again, that's not the approach you have to take. You don't have to wait until you're sub 8 to start learning advanced techniques. In fact, I started learning things like COLL not long after I finished learning full OLL. And I've been sprinkling advanced F2L cases into my repertoire for a long time. Just remember that these are additions, not replacements, and you'll be just fine. So I hope you learned a lot from this video, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. If you did, make sure to subscribe. We're on the long road to 100K. Right now we're at about 59,000, so we need all the help we can get to get there. So please subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. I'll see you guys next time, and I hope you have a great day. This is Brody, signing out.